The latest revelations on Laurentian University and Haché, the president of the university, essentially the CEO of the university, and kind of what he thinks is a misrepresentation. So, yeah, when I read the story, when I read the report from the Auditor General, it's pretty clear to me that there's been some serious mismanagement, not just financial mismanagement, but once the audit began, there was some, what seemed like, and I don't want to attribute false malice, but what seemed like steering the university in a bad direction on purpose. And we've talked about that. Did you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, I did. And that was LISIC's findings, the Auditor General of Ontario, that indeed there were intentions, to deliberately go the route of bankruptcy early on. It wasn't like an accident. It wasn't like, whoops, oh, what happened? It was an oversight, or we didn't realize a few things, and oh no, the way the situation is going, it's out of our control, and oh no, look what it's leading to. They said it was pretty much done intentionally. Yeah,
that's what I got out of it. And one of the aspects Lacombe brings up, the letter to the editor, brings up, is that, like, is this a rich and powerful thing? Like, you can just get away with, absolutely mucking something up as important as $1 billion budget or billions of dollars in budgets, and still not only keep your job, but basically still be in charge of everything you were before. Like,
exactly.
It's just silly to the average person. We look at, when we do a bad job, we might lose our job. We might, even worse things might happen.
Yes.
But in the case of, for instance, right now with President of Laurentian, it seems like everything is just going to be as it was.
Yeah.
Like, the board of directors has changed. Like we mentioned, this was a headline the other day, like, lots of them quit. Just quitting your job, is that enough? Like let's say, the findings are that there's been some criminal acts or criminal negligence. Like, what happens then?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think.
To me, just losing your spot on a board of directors, the Auditor General found that the board of directors was incompetent. So they shouldn't have been on the board anyway. So them quitting the board isn't really a punishment.
No. Because people kind of switch board of directors all the time. Like, one will serve on this board or that board, and they're kind of shuffling around. A lot of the more affluent people and people in influential positions in the city, they serve on these higher boards, and Laurentian is one of them, right? And so it's kind of prestigious to serve on a board. And so it's not, like you said, it's not unheard of to leave a board. So that can't be viewed as the scapegoat or accountability for this particular situation, for sure. But I think the headline too, like, we're looking at you're looking at the Sudbury Star article. I also have the Sudbury.com article on the same subject. And the Sudbury.com, basically, Haché denies the Auditor General's report and the finding that Laurentian strategized. And that, to me, well, what other response do you think the president of Laurentian should have had? Like, what do you think the right thing is? Now, I guess if he continues to claim that it is wrong, the report, so Laurentian University President Haché is sticking to his guns, saying the university did what it could to advocate to the government for financial support, and only turned to filing for creditor protection as a last resort. This in the wake of the release,
CCAA is not supposed to be a tool. Well,
no,
it often is used as a tool in a company setting, but it shouldn't be used in an educational institution.
Yeah, because Lysick said she believes the data shows Laurentian University did not have to file for creditor protection under the, like you said, the CCAA, and it was strategically planned.
Well, let me ask you this, a theoretical scenario. You find out that someone's going to look at past videotapes, emails of the job you've been doing for the last 10 or more years. No one has ever looked at these videotapes or read your emails before. Okay? They say, I want to look at all this stuff. And you say, it's going to take me about a year to show you all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the meantime, you spend $20 million on consultants and business people and, essentially experts in bankruptcy. And then you come back and say, okay, here's all the documents.
Yep.
Like, that sounds a little fishy. And that's one of the things that the letter to the editor on Sudbury Star brings up. Like, that gives you a perfect opportunity to change anything you need to change, make it the best possible, make the board look the best possible. Even the president of the school the best possible. And that's just unacceptable. Like, do we not have any control over, I say we, but essentially when you live in a democracy, it is we. Like, we are the sovereign power, right? So do we not have any power over institutions like Laurentian?
Yeah,
I always believed we had more control over public institutions than the private ones.
Yeah, no, and that's, again, you mentioned that 40% of Laurentian's funding comes from the government.
Provincial, yeah.
Provincial government. And so just that alone means, and who is the government, really, technically speaking? Where does that money come from that the government gets? It comes from us, comes from people, comes from taxpayers. And so you would hope that there would be accountability at some point for that money, just alone, that almost half of the money that you're being given is to run the school is from taxpayer money.
Yep.
And so...
Yep, and and I mean, I remember when I was in the States for school, there was this big, I think it was Title IX, was a big debate at the time, because in the States they have a lot of private universities. Private universities get some of the benefits of being a university, like tax advantages, things, but they don't have the same kind of meddling. Like, there isn't, I guess you could say it's run more like, it's like a half corporation, it's like half public institution, because they do still receive money, public funding. So essentially the difference is they only receive, the big debate was, should they be able to receive, like, when a student can't afford necessarily to pay cash for university, they take out a student loan, right?
Yep.
Those student loans in the U.S. at the time, and I think it's still this way, are all federally backed up by the government. So essentially, during the last decade, or maybe slightly more than a decade, the U.S. government decided student loans were something that they would underwrite the student loans on behalf of students. And, this caused student loans to go through the roof, not surprisingly. But the point is, there's a big debate with, if a private school doesn't obey the will of the federal government, should it be able to receive this funding? Should a student be able to go there on federal dollars lent to them, because they will have to pay it back, right?
Yep.
Should they be able to go back, or should they be able to go there on federal dollars if the school is doing something that the government doesn't like? And that was like a real debate at the time. That was like, some people were on both sides of it. As for me, I've always been pretty liberal. I believe in freedom, so I believe if it's a private institution, you should mostly stay out of it. But I'm starting to, move to the other side now with this whole Laurentian thing. It's like we have no private universities in Canada, so why are you acting like one?
It's true. You can't blow and suck at the same time. You can't have the best of both worlds.
Sure.
Or if you do, there should be accountability on both sides too. You can't have all the gravy on one side and all the gravy on the other side. You have to have checks and balances in place. Obviously, look at the result, right? Now, whether or not it was intentional, let's get to the bottom of this thing. So this is just going to prolong. What is the bottom of this thing? And public perception, what do you think public perception is in the city? Like if we were to take a poll, how many do you think in the city would believe that the Laurentian powers that be strategically planned bankruptcy and it wasn't just out of their control compared to it just happened and there was nothing they could do about it? What do you think?
75% of people would agree with what we're saying.
I think so too. I think there'd be, and then maybe 10 or 15% wouldn't know enough about it, and then maybe 10% or so would say, yeah, it wasn't their fault, possibly because they worked there.
Yeah, and ironically, those are the people that work in these fields.
Yeah, exactly.
These are the people that are in charge of things like this that will say, it's not their fault. It would have happened to anybody, kind of thing. Like I hate to sound, menacing, but like these are the type of people that get these jobs because they play the game.
Yeah.
And if you're privileged, these aren't my words. This is a letter to the editor. Like if you're rich and privileged, do you live by different rules?
Yeah, no, it's true. And again, in our society, I think we're getting more and more of this sentiment from, everyday people that there are two standards, law abiding and then above the law, accountable, and you can do anything you want as long as you know the right people or have the right amount of money or you're in the right positions, right? And so this is just another local example of this type of possible sentiment that people could have. And so if we talked about this extensively over the last couple broadcasts, that this, this kind of accountability thing is going to have to be addressed, because if it just goes with no accountability, everyone loses faith in the system, because that's what the system is supposed to be there for, are things like this, correct?
Well, if the system isn't for, stable
people,
education, life improvement, like what is it for?
Exactly.
Like it's not a vanity project. It's not when you're building brand new buildings, you have to wonder if these people really have our best interests at heart, if they really have the students' best interests at heart. Like I love the analogies. I'm trying to come up with better ones, but it's almost like a parent sending their kid off to university. And the parent says, "Don't worry, I'll pay for everything." And then at the end of 4 years, the students live the high life, nice apartment, new car, everything's paid for, the food, and the teacher hands them back a check, or the parent hands the kid a check and says, "Here's the bill. It's $125,000. So you can go ahead and pay that back to me." And you say, "Well, I thought you had it all taken care of. Like, what have you been doing this whole time?" And it's like, and the parent claims, "Well, I can't really, be blamed for this. Like,
yes.
This problem was placed on my doorstep. Like, you're the one that wanted to go to school." It's like, that's literally, what else do you think the president's in charge of? Like, what else do you think the board of directors is in charge of? And then the parent just, at the end of the 4 years, child gets all mad at them, and the parent says, "Well, I quit. I'm walking away." That's what the board did.
And you're saying basically the government is kind of like the parent, and here's all your money, to Laurentian being the student in your analogy, and basically you're just getting free money anyways, and there's no accountability. But at the end of the day, you wonder, hey,
you're accountable.
Yeah, why was all my money spent? What did you do this? Instead of along the way checking in or having things in place to prevent that type of thing. Maybe checking in every semester and looking at your grades and say, why are you failing? Or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Like sometimes the parents, like, I don't know, I always thought Laurentian was a pretty responsible place just by default. Yeah. You know, billions of dollars pouring through this place every year. I always thought they're the parent. Like, they're going to be responsible. They're taking in international students. They must have balanced the books somehow. Mm-hmm. But it turns out they've taken the Justin Trudeau 2015 election approach, which is like, the budget will balance itself. Like, just spend infinite money. If they give you the loans, then it's a good way to spend it.
Yeah, I don't.
And like, you're spending more than $7 million in interest annually now. Like, do the math on how many students that is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And like, you just lost a third of your new enrollment because of this.
It's not looking good, I don't think. Again, right? As we do this post-mortem after the... we're in the middle of this post-mortem and really trying to get down. But how long can it just go on? I'm glad the Auditor General report, at least, or the preliminary one, right? Is the full report still set to come out? Is that what we're waiting for?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hey, AJ here. Did you like that video? Please like and subscribe for more. Just like it every weekday.
Share it with your friends so they can stay up to date with all Sudbury news.